And we've got One Nation leader Pauline Hanson with us. Senator, I think we've sorted out the audio difficulties. Thanks for your patience. I was saying that...
Thanks, James. Good.
If Barnaby doesn't recontest the lower house, you could end up with a group of first-term One Nation MPs, you'd be hoping to, but all of them without anyone to lead them in the House. So I guess that wouldn't be ideal, would it?
It wouldn't be ideal, James. You've got to have the knowledge and experience and, of course, to understand the Parliament itself, how it works. So it's very hard for those who've never experienced it before. So it's very important. So, you know, I've spoken this over with Barnaby, where we go moving forward with it. So the polls are constant and we're picking up those polls all the time. We've seen an European by-election of pulling 25% of the vote. So anyway, it's something we will discuss further as we move forward.
How many lower house MPs would you be prepared to have without a Barnaby Joyce figure there to lead them?
Hey, listen, what a question to ask me. Hey, listen, give me 94 seats. Let me take over what Albanese's got now. I'll be happy to deal with the problem that we're going to have. I'm sure we'll find some answer to it, and especially when we get good policy that's going to give us back prosperity in our nation, common sense policies, get rid of the net zero, get rid of, you know, the high migration, get industries, manufacturing back. James, there's no limit to it, what I'd like to do.
Well, I was talking before we went to the break about your candidate in Farrer, who Barnaby Joyce said this morning some of the pressure of campaigning led him to talk about maintaining immigration numbers as they are when clearly your policy is to reduce them. I guess it's those kind of mistakes that can be forgiven for someone who's brand new to politics that emphasises why you would be keen to have Barnaby Joyce remain in the lower house rather than go to the Senate.
Look, it's very important. David Farley did make that say, you know, he was asked the question, what do you think 306 is? There too many people in the country? And he said no. You also have to look at his electorate, and this is where I read into this, that they want those workers in the country because they can't get Australians to work. I went to a function today in Rockhampton, and again, everyone's telling me they can't get Australians to work. So what the hell's happening to our country? And that's why people are relying on those workers coming from overseas and backpackers. And that's the real problem. You've got abattoirs, you've got farming sector who are very heavily reliant on those international workers coming into the country. Is 306,000 too many? You bet it is. And it's not our policy. And it's not up to David Farley to determine this. We will determine the numbers by the party. What our policy is 130,000. That's it. Until we rein in and we can get housing for every Australian out there. I don't want to see people living on streets. I don't want people living in tents or in their cars, or families have no hope of ever owning their own home. That's not my end result. I want to get Australians to get up off their backsides and go and get a job and work and be responsible for yourself, not the taxpayer. We've got to change the mindset of people out there, James.
Barnaby Joyce said something else that had ears pricking up this morning. He told Andrew Clennell that your party would be open to striking a deal with the coalition in exchange for policy concessions. Have a listen.
I think we've been clear on this, Andrew. We would offer supply and confidence. We are on the Conservative side, so there's no ambiguity about that. But we don't want the ministry, so it's a great day for them. They get to hand out all the prizes. What we will want is policy, and we'll be very straight about that. Policy such as getting rid of the Climate Change Department, because it's done so much damage, so much hurt, and it has not changed the climate. It has put us in a precarious position on fuel, precarious position on electricity, taking away any chance of manufacturing coming to Australia. It needs to be gone.
Have you had conversations with Barnaby about backing the coalition if they agreed to ditch the Department of Climate Change?
James, this has been my stance and I've been espousing it for weeks now. So he's saying exactly what I'm saying, is that I'm not going to be the tail on the dog that wags, you know, when we're in a position to give supply and confidence to a coalition government that will possibly, you know, be government. My main aim is to get rid of this toxic Labor, Greens, Teal government that we have, and to get rid of them. Now,
let me be very clear about what just happened here. Pauline Hanson didn't just answer questions in this interview. She laid out a full political roadmap that directly challenges the direction of Australian politics right now. First, she makes it clear that leadership and experience in Parliament are not optional. Without someone like Barnaby Joyce in the lower house, she's warning that political inexperience inside one nation could weaken their effectiveness. That's not a small statement. That's a strategic admission about how fragile political momentum can be without strong figures in place. But then the tone shifts sharply. When asked about influence and power, she doesn't hesitate. She goes straight into ambition. "Give me 94 seats," she says. Not as a joke, but as a political statement of intent. That's not defensive politics anymore. That's expansion thinking. And then comes the core ideological strike. She doubles down on what she calls common sense policies. But in political reality, these are some of the most controversial positions in Australian debate right now. Cutting migration sharply, reversing climate policy direction, bringing manufacturing back, and rejecting net zero targets completely. This is where the interview stops being just discussion and becomes a direct challenge to mainstream policy consensus. Because whether you agree or not, she is framing it as one core argument. Australia is broken because of policy direction, not circumstance. Then comes the coalition strategy. And this is important. She signals willingness for supply and confidence deals, but absolutely rejects ministerial control. That means one nation wants influence without integration, power without absorption into the system, and that's a key political move, supporting government stability while staying structurally independent from it. But the most controversial moment arrives when she pushes for dismantling the climate change department entirely. Her argument is not subtle. She claims it has damaged industry, energy pricing, and manufacturing potential. That statement alone positions climate policy not as environmental protection, but as economic harm, a complete reversal of mainstream framing. Then the conversation moves into immigration and labor shortages. She highlights a contradiction. Businesses say they can't find workers, while immigration numbers remain politically contested. Her response is blunt: reduce migration, fix housing, force labor participation. No middle framing, no balancing language, just direct causation politics. And finally, the interview escalates into national sentiment politics: crime, safety, debt, policing shortages, and public frustration. She presents one nation as the pressure force on both major parties, not just opposition, but correction. So when you step back and look at the full picture, this isn't just an interview. It's a political positioning statement. Reject current climate policy direction, cut migration sharply, rebuild domestic industry, offer conditional support to coalition, and position one nation as the rising pressure block in Australian politics. And whether you agree or disagree with it, one thing is clear: this is not moderate politics anymore. This is a direct challenge to the entire policy framework currently running the country. Now, the real question is not what was said. It's whether Australian voters are moving toward this kind of politics faster than the system is ready for it. Drop your opinion in the comments, because this debate is far from over.